Hey freaks, it's JJ. Welcome to my channel. Today I am so excited because you guys have been so awesome in requesting videos for me and like bands for me to check out. Like, I have discovered so many fantastic bands thanks to all of you freaks. But today, this is coming as a request. I will be covering Avantasia's Metal Opera Part 1. Hey guys, so I didn't really realize how fucking glitchy this video is until I just started editing it, but it's fucked up, and now I can't really redo the video because my voice sounds like this because I'm sick. So I'm gonna try and do my best with the editing, but this video is fucked. I'm sorry. We'll see what happens with the editing. Thank you so much for recommending Avantasia. You know who you are. This band is awesome, and it's a lot like Arian, and it has that whole metal opera, multiple singers, collaboration, superstar all cast type of thing, and it's so much fun. So thank you for suggesting it. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Avantasia, it is Tobias Sammet's side project. Well, I don't know if you can call it a side project anymore because it's become quite big, but Tobias Sammet from Edguy. He has a whole metal opera, part 1 being released in 2001, and that is what I'll be covering today. So I have this wonderful book here that is the gold edition of the Metal Opera Part 1 and 2, and basically it has both albums in it, and then it also has just incredible like artwork and pictures of Tobias, and also it includes an interview and track by track behind the scenes stories for each song, and also most importantly has the official story for this concept. So that has been like my favorite thing of this little book here, is it has like the actual story in it, which this thing I got on Amazon for I think $27, which is crazy to have 2 albums and a whole booklet of information and just like cool pictures, and it's packaged really nice. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a fucking great deal for $27. You can't find any other like concept album with this much material in it that's gonna be that cheap price-wise. So if it's still available on Amazon, I will throw an affiliate link down in the description if you guys want to pick one of these up. Hopefully there will still be some left. Anyway, let's jump into the story. This is Avantasia's 2001 album, The Metal Opera Part 1. Okay, track 1, Prelude. Here we just start with an instrumental track, but there's actually a lot to talk about storyline-wise before we actually get into the rest of the tracks on the album. So there's a whole backstory that you need to know. So we set the scene in Mainz, Germany in 1602. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's M-A-I-N-Z. Let me know down in the comments how to say that correctly. Anyway, we meet our protagonist, Gabriel Lehmann, who is a novice monk, and he's done pretty well as an apprentice to his mentor, Friar Jacob. And together, they have recently gotten a confession out of one Elsa Vogler, who was a witch possessed by a demon after reading a satanic book. And because Gabriel did so well in getting this confession, his mentor has decided to let him leave the monastery to go to the witch's tower to kind of deliver God's will on one of the witches there. And so Gabriel's pretty excited about this opportunity that he's being lent to go by himself to collect a confession from a witch at the witch's tower. And so he gets to the tower and he opens the door to meet his next client. But who should he find there but his stepsister? Her name is Anna Held, and Gabriel is not sure what to think of this. He loves his sister and he's pretty sure that she's not a witch, but at the same time, he wants to do his duties as a novice monk, and so he's not sure what to do. He thinks that there's obviously been some kind of mistake because there's no way his sister could be a witch. And so Gabriel then leaves the tower to go kind of seek the counsel of his mentor, Friar Jacob. So he gets back to the monastery and he walks in on Friar Jacob kind of reading this book, and as soon as Gabriel walks in the door, Jacob just kind of chucks the book away and pretends like he was not reading it, clearly not wanting Gabriel to see whatever he was reading. So Gabriel thinks this is strange, but at the time he's got bigger issues with his sister being a witch, so he kind of just like forgets about it for a moment and tells Jacob about what's going on and how his sister's there and how he thinks that she might be innocent. And so Jacob listens to his story and he just, calms Gabriel down a little bit, and he promises that he'll look into Anna's case and, find out whether or not she's innocent or guilty, and they will take care of it. So that night, Gabriel, unable to sleep, of course, decides to seek out the book that Jacob was reading, when he walked in on him, because it's really strange for Jacob to try and hide something from Gabriel because they have a very close friendship and close relationship with each other. And so He thinks that, maybe whatever he was reading could possibly help with his sister's case, and so he goes and seeks out the book. He finds the book and he realizes it's some kind of like ancient relic, and it definitely seems like it's some kind of evil satanic book. So Gabriel can't quite read much of the book because it's in another language, but he's able to make out a few passages. But at the back of the book, he finds a letter. And this letter is from someone named Lugaid van der Rohe, who claims that the book was stolen from him by one Elsa Vogler, which is the witch that Gabriel and Jacob just got a confession out of, who has just burned at the stake for being a witch. Gabriel realizes that this is the very book that invited a demon into Elsa and made her get possessed. And so he freaks out, he, closes the book and he runs away, goes back to bed. Anyway, in the morning, Gabriel's fingers are stained all black from touching this evil book. And then Friar Jacob sees that and realizes what Gabriel has done, and he sends him to the chapel to go pray for forgiveness for reading this evil book. And it is here that we pick up with track 2, and the rest of the story unfolds with the tracks. Track 2, Reach for the Light. So Gabriel is in the chapel on his knees begging God for forgiveness and kind of just, mulling over his choices and trying to figure out why he was so compelled to read this evil book. He's feeling really guilty about it, but at the same time, he's also really worried about his stepsister. He's confused as to whether she's innocent or guilty, and he knows he needs to do something about it. But then at the same time, he's also conflicted because he's pondering the meaning of the book. He wasn't able to read much of it, but this one phrase he was able to read, and it's kind of stood out to him and kind of has begun to kind of haunt him a little bit. And the phrase was, "Many ways lead to Rome, 7 times one way, all for that leads to a world beyond our imagination." And as he's sitting there praying on his knees with all this confusion going on inside his head, he is then arrested and taken to prison for reading the evil satanic book. Track 3, Serpents in Paradise. So Gabriel is now in prison, and here he just begins spewing his entire story to his cellmate, and he explains everything that happened with his sister and with the book and everything. And so his fellow prisoner, listens to him to tell the story, and when Gabriel's finished explaining, the cellmate reveals that he is none other than Lugaid van der Rohe, the one who wrote the letter to Elsa claiming that she stole the book from him. So he then explains that he is a druid, like one of the last in the world, and he also explains that the book Gabriel touched was not evil in any way, and that Gabriel should, not feel guilty for having read and opened it. So that's like a huge weight lifted off Gabriel's shoulders. He's like, okay, well, thank God I'm not going to be possessed by a demon anytime soon for reading that book. But at the same time, he's very conflicted because if the book was not evil, then that means that Elsa Vogler was probably innocent. And he begins to feel troubled by, feeling guilty over the prospect that maybe he and Jacob had tortured a confession out of an innocent woman and sent her to burn at the stake for no good reason. So here we kind of see how the tables have turned in the terms of witchcraft and prosecution for witchcraft, especially in these early 1600s. Next up we have track 4, Malicious Malaficarum. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but that translates to Hammer of the Witches, which is a book on demonology, which was written by a German Catholic clergyman back in 1486. Basically, the book kind of just purports that witchcraft and sorcery of any kind should be prosecuted the same way as heresy. And so, torture is suggested as a suitable way of obtaining confessions, and then the death penalty for any of those who are found guilty. So basically this track is just kind of, I think, Gabriel's guilty conscience beginning to plague him with like nightmares of the torture that he conducted on Elsa Vogler, and perhaps realizing that he may even suffer the same fate as her for his crimes of reading this evil book. So tables have turned here, and now Gabriel is really feeling like maybe he hasn't been doing quite the right thing with all these witchcraft trial things. Anyway, that brings us to the next track, track 5, Breaking Away. So track 5, Breaking Away. So Gabriel has, after 3 days of being in prison, he's been attacked by his conscience while sitting in prison, and the druid van der Rohe convinces Gabriel that they must escape together. Van der Rohe explains that they both can't trust the judicial system to exonerate them, and so Gabriel can't go save his sister if he wastes away in prison. And so Gabriel agrees, and van der Rohe knocks out the jailer, steals his keys, and the pair break free.
Next up, we have track 6, Farewell. It's actually one of my favorite tracks on the album. Gabriel and Vanderoy are now free, and Gabriel wishes to go seek his sister in the tower and go free her, but he is no longer a monk in training, so, if he were to go there, then he would immediately be caught and thrown back into prison. So he can't just go and sneak over to the tower, because he'd easily be caught. So he and Vanderoy decide to flee to the next town over, and Gabriel then visits Anna in his dreams, and he is again plagued by nightmares, but this time it's nightmares of Anna in prison, and he vows to come and set her free as soon as he possibly can. Track 7, The Glory of Rome. I also love this track as well, and I was kind of surprised to read that Tobias Sammet was not a huge fan of this track, but I love it. Anyway, here we meet the bailiff of the town of Mainz, one Falk van Kronberg. He was the one who presided over Elsa Vogler's trial. He is also traveling along with the Prince Bishop Johann Adam von Bricken, and also Gabriel's mentor, the Friar Jacob. And so they are on a journey to bring this evil book that they have to the Vatican. And it is here that we find out that the book is actually one of 7 holy books that contain answers to unlock this land of illumination and kind of bring about this sort of like ultimate wisdom that they are seeking. Next up, we have In Nominee Patrice. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically that means in the name of the Father. And this is just an instrumental track, but there is a lot that goes on here story-wise. And so the Pope invites the bishop and Friar Jacob to another dimension. Basically, he explains once they go there, they will be able to receive this like heavenly wisdom, and he wants them to kind of lock the door behind them after they go there, because he thinks that the common man would be destroyed by this heavenly knowledge, and it is sort of their responsibility as chosen holy men to kind of keep this land and this knowledge locked away in secret from the general public. And so Falk, which is the bailiff, he leaves back for Mainz while the Pope, the bishop, and a friar explore this kind of the labyrinthine depths of the tunnels beneath the Vatican. And so the 3 eventually arrive at a wooden door, and the Pope uses this kind of like triangular plaque that he pulled from the book and uses it to open the door to this portal to this other world. Next up, we have track 9, Avantasia. And so Gabriel and Vanderoy go to Rome to steal back the book from Jacob before it falls into the hands of the Pope. Like, Vanderoy knows kind of what the Pope's mission is, and so he wants to make sure that they steal the book back before they are able to accomplish that mission. So Vanderoy explains that there are 7 books, and each of them can open a portal to Avantasia, which is this holy dimension that we talked about in the last track. So Vanderoy now has reason to believe that the Vatican now has all 7 of these books, and the Pope's plan is to bring all 7 books to the tower at the center of Avantasia. And once there, they can then close the gate to the realm forever and never let anyone else ever enter or experience this heavenly realm. And then the Pope wants to do this as sort of a way to keep a hold of the human race and kind of control them. And so Gabriel and Vanderoy get on the train to Rome to go about this mission, but they are then set upon by a band of brigands. And so Gabriel and Vanderoy wake up hours later after being beaten and knocked out. And so, of course, now they've missed the train to Rome, and the only way to stop the Pope before he gets to the Tower of Avantasia and locks the portal forever is to put Gabriel in sort of like a form of hypnosis, where his spirit will travel to Avantasia while his body will be kept in the earthly realm and watched over by Vanderoy. And so Gabriel's kind of, apprehensive about this mission because it sounds kind of sketchy, and I don't blame him. But eventually he agrees. And so they find a quiet glen where Gabriel is able to lay down, and Vanderoy works his druid powers, and Gabriel's spirit is then able to leave his body behind as he travels to Avantasia. Next up, we have track 10, A New Dimension. This is, again, another instrumental track, but again, some things happen here that we need to talk about storyline-wise. Here, Gabriel wakes up in Avantasia, and it's this new dimension that has, kind of supplied his spirit with sort of like a temporary body. And so Gabriel inhabits this sort of avatar in Avantasia in order to kind of travel the land. So he travels around in this new body, and he discovers, all these beautiful trees and mountains and rolling streams and clear blue skies. It's basically just sort of maybe what you would imagine heaven being like. And so this track is just him exploring Avantasia. Track 11, Inside. During his travels, Gabriel soon runs into a dwarf named Regrin. Not sure. We're going with Regrin right now, I think. Anyway, Regrin, the dwarf, helps kind of guide Gabriel through Avantasia. And so Regrin leads him to the capital of Avantasia. It is there that they meet with the elf prince Eldraine. Track 12, Sign of the Cross. So here in the capital of Avantasia, Eldorain, the elf prince, explains to Gabriel about this war that is coming to Avantasia. So what Eldorain knows is that a group of men have entered Avantasia, and they seek to destroy everything that the realm stands for. And this group of men wants to steal the knowledge and the power for themselves, and they have kind of even risen an army to surround the tower and keep everyone else out except for themselves. And so if this group of men are successful in bringing all 7 seals together to the tower, then all the benevolent beings of Avantasia will kind of cease to exist. And so obviously Eldorain doesn't want this to happen. So he asks Gabriel if he will go and infiltrate this group of men and steal back the seal. Since Gabriel has this like humanoid body, he can maybe fit in with these human men and be able to steal back the seal before they are able to deliver it to the tower. So Gabriel's like, yeah, I don't know about this. This seems like another sketchy mission where I could possibly die. So in the meantime that Eldorain is explaining this to Gabriel, Vandroid also speaks to Gabriel's human body on Earth, and Gabriel is able to hear him while inside Avantasia. And so Druid kind of urges Gabriel to agree with this mission to go steal back the seal. And so, Gabriel decides that although it'll be super dangerous, he agrees to the mission. Track 13, the tower. So here Gabriel is dropped off near sort of like where the tower is through the means of this like awesome flying machine that's operated by the elves, which I think is so cool. Like I just imagine this kind of like steampunk like powered flying machine that just drops him off over near the tower. Anyway, sorry. So then after Gabriel is dropped off, he meets up with the Pope, the Bishop, and his old mentor, Jacob. And of course, Gabriel is in this new Avantasia body, so they don't recognize him. And he pretends to be their guide and leads the 3 to the tower. And so once they reach the tower at the center of Avantasia, the tower begins to speak. And it is then revealed that the tower is sort of this, like, father of mankind. And he was the one of, like, 3 magicians that created Earth and Avantasia. And he was then locked away in the tower because he wanted to, I guess, sort of like bring chaos to Earth and to Avantasia. And so he was locked away in the tower, and he can only be released by locking Avantasia with the 7 seals. So if this story sounds a little bit familiar, it probably should because it's in the Bible. Basically, the tower is Satan, pretty clear line drawn between the devil and the tower here. So we kind of understand that the tower is evil, and so does Gabriel. However, the 3 clerics mistake the voice of the tower for the voice of Jesus Christ himself. And so, of course, they want to free Jesus by tossing the seal over the wall to the tower. And this will essentially lock Avantasia and set the being of the tower free. But at the last moment, Gabriel steals the seal and runs away for his life. He is sprinting through this dark army that is surrounding the tower, and he doesn't think he's going to make it out. But suddenly, he is grabbed from behind and lifted into the air, and he realizes he's been picked up by the elf-operated flying machine. And so the elves save him with their awesome flying machine, and he is then taken back to the capital and celebrated as a hero for being able to steal the seal. So yes, happy ending here. However, it's not quite over, and Gabriel can't feel quite like a hero just yet because he has still failed at saving his stepsister Anna, and that was his one true goal, was to save her, and he has still yet to accomplish that. So that is where part 1 ends. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Concept Album Explained. I will be back, of course, with Metal Opera part 2, maybe next week or the week after. So I'm looking forward to discussing the rest of the story and also diving into more Avantasia later on because this band is awesome. Anyway, yeah, if you have other album recommendations that you want me to cover as far as concept albums go, or metal operas, or anything in the rock and metal genre that have a story to them, please suggest that down in the comments. Also, let me know what you think of this concept album, this story, this fantasy world that we get to dive into. Anyway, if you want to get access to bonus content and a private playlists of random videos, go down to the link in the description and join my Metalhead community. It's an email list, and I think maybe this month or next month I will be uploading a video of all the bloopers from my channel. Thanks for watching, freaks. Till next time.